Well, joining me now is Bollywood superstar and UN Environment's Goodwill Ambassador for India, Dia Mirza. A real pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. So I see you made a Goodwill Ambassador back in 2017. What does that work entail?
I'm sorry, I didn't follow your question. There's a lot of feedback on the audio.
Sure. I see you made a Goodwill Ambassador back in 2017, so I'd just like to get a sense of what that work entails.
Well, it primarily involves advocacy, bringing the science to the people and, really bridging the gap between science and civil society. There is so much science available today that helps us make better choices as human beings, and for too long that has not been accessible to civil society. And I think that the most important part of my work is to take that science to the people.
What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the Beat Plastic Pollution campaign. I think that it's brought about a huge shift. More people today recognize how terrible our choices of consumption in plastic have been, and how terrifying the production of plastics has been, and especially so much of the statistics that I think had not been accessible to people. You know, simple facts like there'll be more plastic in the oceans than fish by 2050. The fact that every 1 minute a truck full of plastic enters our oceans. There's just so much that I think more people know today than ever before. But I think the predominant part of the campaign was the awareness and understanding that most of this plastic that is produced annually, 50% of it is single use. And as human beings and as people, we can so easily refuse this plastic. And I think it's brought about big change. Even in a commitment from our Prime Minister on World Environment Day saying that India would become single-use plastics free by 2022. I think that's big.
I'm interested to know if you've always been very aware of the dangers to the environment. You know, being Indian, I see that none of the world's 10 most polluted cities in the world are in India. So growing up, was it something that you were very conscious of?
Absolutely. I was growing up in a city called Hyderabad. I was born in 1981. That's actually the year that the climate report indicated that global warming was happening, and we as human beings need to do a lot more to act upon the fact that we were impacting the climate negatively through our choice of consumption and industry. My formative years, whether in school or at home, drew my attention repeatedly to how important our personal choices of consumption were and how they would impact the environment. I think it's in the last 10 years that I have really become a strong advocate, because I recognized how so little was being done to draw our attention to how poorly we were managing our waste and treating our environment. I did a travel show 3 years ago where I traveled from the source of the Ganges all the way to sea, and it was slow travel, so I was traveling through road, through villages and towns and cities of 5 states in India. And all I could see through that travel was just heaps and heaps and heaps and ravines of plastic waste. And it got me thinking, it really got me thinking about the numbers and the fact that practically every item of food and beverage today is packaged in plastic. And we clearly don't have the infrastructure to support the management of that waste. And it's landing up in our oceans, in our rivers, in our waterways, in landfills. It's being incinerated. It's polluting our soil, our air, our water. And it just, I think, in so many ways fueled my purpose to do more and raise more awareness and just proactively get involved in asking questions like, what is happening with extended producers' responsibility? Why is it that the world is producing so much plastic and it has nowhere to go, and it's polluting the environment the way it is, and we're just not doing enough?
Dia, you mentioned infrastructure there. Do you get the sense that the mood, the attitude from people is beginning to change? Because in many of these countries in the developing world, there is abject poverty. So for a lot of people, their main priority is really getting food on the table for themselves and their children.
Oh, absolutely. I think a big part of the problem lies, especially in third world countries, lies in the fact that we have bigger problems and we perceive other problems as bigger problems. We have malnutrition, we have a lot of issues, and I think that until and unless the world collectively recognizes that the first and the primary impact that we have on human health and all human securities comes from the environment, we are not going to change that attitude. We can hope for better education for our children, we can hope for empowerment of women, but until we recognize that the first thing that secures the right to life is the health of the environment, we're not going to change.
I'm interested in get your thoughts on Sky's Deep Ocean Life projects that quest to examine the impact of climate change and the plastic pollution in our ocean. I mean, when you first heard about that project, what was your initial reaction?
I was very, very excited, and I think that this is an extremely effective way of helping people understand the magnitude of the issue. I've always used Baba Diem's phrase where he says that in the end we will protect only that what we love, and we will love only that what we learn about. And I think the Deep Ocean Rescue and the Sky Ocean Rescue campaign is one that will help people understand the magnitude of the problem, but also just learn to love our oceans that much more.
And do you think there is so much more to learn about our oceans?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's not enough understanding of how much the oceans impact and bring balance to our planet. There are millions of lives that are dependent on oceans. But that apart, I think the one thing that definitively balances our climate is the ocean. And when we disrupt the balance of the ocean, we are, increasing our risks every day.
I'm sure you're well aware of the global walkouts that took place amongst some school children protesting, trying to raise awareness about the issues of the dangers facing our environment. Is that something that you would welcome, something that you would support?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Greta Thunberg. I think, my God, her voice is so powerful, and the fact that she's really, really compelled the world and children across the world to come together and initiate and be part of the global movement, Climate Strike. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But I also think that it's children who are going to use their voice more effectively now than perhaps ever before. And I'm most certain that governments and policymakers and industries will be compelled to listen to these voices, because we do not have a choice. We have to act on climate now.
Yeah, and just a final thought from you. I mean, there will be people who will be watching this right now who will say, that they have to prioritise whether it's, going to work, putting food on the table for themselves and their children, as I mentioned earlier on, or doing other things. I mean, what would you say to them about the importance of getting involved in saving the environment?
I think every one of us has the power to make a difference. I think our personal life choices can contribute significantly towards that change, whether it's the choice we made in the food we eat, by reducing our consumption of meat, by going vegan or being mostly vegetarian, by refusing the use of single-use plastics. I mean, saying no to simple things like a plastic bag, a plastic straw, and just drawing our awareness in our everyday consumption patterns. And then, of course, if you want to do more, you can support organizations that conserve and protect the environment. You can lobby and get governments to pass better laws and improve their jurisdiction. There's a lot of good that each one of us can do, but yes, I think that change can start with every individual, and we're all capable of making a big change by just making the right choices. And
Dia
we have
Mirza,
access to those options.
Sure. Dia Mirza, actress, environmentalist and a UN Goodwill Ambassador, really appreciate you talking to us this afternoon. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, thank you, and thank you for doing what you're doing.
The Deep Ocean Live series will broadcast live news bulletins 300 metres underwater. Join us beneath the sea on Monday the 18th, Tuesday 19th and Wednesday the 20th of March.